Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to the show. Mary Balistreri joining us here, the mindful business coach and CEO of MBT, which is, more business today. We are excited to have her here, hailing live from beautiful Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to talk more about her coaching and all that she can to do to help you and improve your mindset and conversations to help build relationship and achieve business, let alone leadership goals. So welcome to the
Right.
show today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, Jill.
Well, pleasure to have you here. First and foremost, tell us how we can contact you. Would you mind sharing the website to start?
Absolutely. The website is MBT, More Business Today, LLC.com. And my email is just as easy, Mary at MBT, More Business Today, LLC.com.
Well, excited to have you here as our mindful business coach and would love to just get a quick overview about the types of services you offer. And then we're going to break it down and get to know you. And then we'll go into more specifics about the company and, of course, how you can help our viewers and listeners today.
All right. Thank you so much. So at MBT, I offer coaching services, whether it's for individuals or groups, and also facilitation services, which basically is facilitating conversations. And sometimes it might be with a company or a team as they're putting together their strategy. And
Okay.
in everything I do, belonging is so important and inclusion is important. So my best types of clients reach out to me and they have that knowledge. And that's part of what they're trying to build. They're building inclusive leaders, they're building companies where inclusion is important in
Yep.
terms of how they interact with their clients.
Sure is.
And they're also using those types of thoughts in order to attract new clients and in their conversations with people.
Beautiful. Well, we are excited to get to know you on a personal one-on-one level before we get started to talk more about all the group coaching, the workshops, and all these amazing strategy sessions that you offer. But let's start off a little bit about you. Where did you grow up? I read that you were really more interested in the problems that your peers were facing back in the day and when you were 12. So tell us a little bit about that. And then I want to get to know how this all evolved.
Okay, thank you so much. I was the youngest, the sixth of six children. And I think in that role for me, I was so interested in everybody else. My oldest sibling is 12 years older than me, and just observing and watching what was going on in the house. And I think
Yeah.
that's why it translated into on the playground. Like when I was 12, I don't know if this is a good thing, but
It's okay.
a lot of people, I know, right? A lot of people thought I was one of the parents because I was very sort of pensive and thoughtful. And you would find me instead of,
Wow.
out playing Foursquare, which is what we used to play back then, and here in Milwaukee, instead of seeing me doing that, I would generally be sitting somewhere up against the building with another classmate and listening to their problems. I was always that ear and that
Yeah.
shoulder, and then helping them decide what to do was a big part of it. And as I went through my career, that need to support and help people really came through in every job that I was in until eventually a friend of mine said, you know, what you're doing is called coaching.
Wow. And
And I
here
was
you
here in
are.
Milwaukee. Yeah, was here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, so you were mistaken for the adult. You clearly were ahead of your time and more mature than most, right? Um,
Yes,
Let me
definitely.
ask, but you mentioned your mindset sometimes often sabotaged you. Could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So I came from, by the time I came along as number six, my dad was a laborer and he got laid off a lot of the time, especially during my teens.
Mm-hmm.
So we had very little money. And, I sort of had this chip on my shoulder about that. But in addition, and I know a lot of people deal with this, not really understanding my value. So I felt like I started so many steps behind.
Yeah.
If everybody else in the world starts at zero, me and a lot of my peers, I felt like we started
Yeah.
100 yards back. and there was so much space to make up. But then I realized as I got older and spent more time understanding myself,
Mhm.
self-awareness is such a huge thing. And learning more about myself and why I did the things that I did, I started to realize that that mindset of
Mhm.
focusing on all the negative, all that did was hold me back from achieving. Whereas the more you can open your mind and find the positive things in your own abilities is where it starts. And that's why mindset is such a huge thing. First,
Oh,
looking inward, what are you telling yourself? Right.
yeah.
And I work on that with my clients all the time. Simple things. If I'm helping somebody develop business, let's say, and this happened recently with a lawyer I was working with in California, and he's a real gregarious kind of guy. Everybody likes him, but he didn't have a lot of business. So I said,
Mhm.
well, what are you thinking before you go to a networking event? And he said, I'm thinking nobody in that room is going to hire me. And if they wanted to, they couldn't afford me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so it really seeps into every single thing, whether it's developing more business, conversing with your clients, or becoming a better leader in the way that you listen to your people, in the way that you understand the needs of your team. All of those things start with mindset.
Ah, which changes everything, right? And hence you're a
Yes.
big believer in mindset. I was reading about that too. And the fact that you've always been a self-starter in a sense, right?
Yeah, definitely. I had that inner drive, and one of the things that I've noticed as I got older is I'm dangerous if I'm bored.
Ditto.
So I turned 30 and a friend of mine came to me. I'm generally a self-starter, but he said, "Hey, let's start our own musical theater company." Because I was a reporter then, and we were out performing
Oh my gosh.
um, in other theaters in our area. And so I just jumped in because I was getting tired of the reporting I was doing. And we started a theater, and I had such a great time. 40, I changed jobs
Wow.
and jumped in and became a director of business development at a mid-sized law firm. And then when I was 50, I was kind of getting tired of all of what I was doing then. When I was 50, that's when I went and became a certified coach. So yeah, I'm always kind of looking for the next thing to change. And
You are
I,
like jack of all trades, master of all. Mary, impressive. And I read,
thank
okay,
you.
this is so important to me. You are a proud owner of two cats and two dogs.
Yes, I think
Mommy.
that I
I have
could not
three cats
live.
and I have two kids, 7 and 9, but oh my God,
Oh,
my pet baby.
three cats.
Yeah, and we're working on, unfortunately, we had a baby last week that died. One got pregnant, so the kids are devastated, but
Oh
I love
no.
animals. If I could get up early enough to walk dogs, I'd have a dog, but I can't. I have my kids to walk in the morning. But the cats are easier to take care of. So, what type of cats do you have and dogs? Just curious.
Oh, sure. So the two cats are sisters. And they're both part Siamese. And
Okay.
one is a Torquay Siamese, where she's got the
Oh,
dark cafe au lait and the real dark
oh
brown,
yeah.
beautiful kitty. And the other one is a flame point
Ooh, beautiful.
Siamese. And they both have blue eyes,
Oh,
which is, it always kind of scares my husband if I'm holding one of the cats and my eyes are blue and the cat's eyes are blue. And he's like, this is too spooky.
oh, see,
This is too
but it's
spooky.
true though. Pet owners start to look like their pets. I've always noticed that.
Absolutely. And so then they're 13 already. The time just went so fast.
Oh
And then
my,
we have two dogs, and they're hilarious. One is, so the cats' names are Winter and Sky.
beautiful.
And we have two dogs. The littler one is a Chihuahua Shih Tzu, who is hilarious, and her name is Snow.
Oh,
And then the other one is a combination of a bunch of stuff, but one of the main things is an Australian cattle dog.
mm-hmm.
And her name is Storm. And she's got all this energy and she's always hurting us. And just very quickly, because I've used this in when I talk to clients, when COVID hit and I was staying home all the time,
Mm-hmm.
that dog taught herself to bring me my slippers.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought, if
Amazing.
my dog Storm can teach herself, because she needs to have a
Darn
job,
right. Yeah.
Dad, what could all of us learn how to do?
Beautifully said. I love this. But really, the importance of pets in our lives, I think,
Yes.
really say so much. And nice to know that you are a pet owner and a great pet mommy. Let's also get into a little bit about, just curious, I want to ask about your mentors. Now, growing up, who kind of guided you into this, or did you not have any?
Well, it was interesting. I never had a formal mentor, but when I was younger, once again, my teens,
I remember
the
those
woman
days.
who, yeah, the woman who was my godmother, and we called her Aunt Betty,
Aw,
and that her family is just very, very close to our family. So her husband had MS, and her son had cerebral palsy, and then she also had three daughters.
wow.
But so she was the breadwinner in her family, and just the strongest woman, and you know, just a joyful person. After her husband died, which also was when I was very young, she started hanging out with her friends who were widows, and they called
Okay.
themselves the Merry Widows, and they would travel everywhere. She just had this fun spirit. And then after I got married, and had my son, he's disabled.
Ah,
And my husband is a massage therapist. So it made the most sense for me to be the person who went to work.
yeah.
And so later I realized she was such an incredible role model to me. And she lived till she was 95.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Amazing woman. But then in addition to that, in high school, my high school French teacher, Mrs. Janie Hatton, and Janie, if you're listening, this is all about you.
Uh-huh.
She just had, she was that kind of person who, um, she nurtured us in a
Yeah.
way that, sometimes a lot of us weren't really nurtured at home, or, there was a lot of things going on. In those days, my sister was real sick most of my life. And so Mrs. Hatton was the one who, she could be a role model for us. She taught us French, but in addition to French, she taught us all about life. And so we're
Amazing.
we're still friends.
Oh, I love that. Well, that's an inspiring story and says so
Yeah.
much about you and about, the work you're doing. And also, there's amazing testimonials on the website. We're going to talk now about the work that she's doing, if you don't mind. So great getting to know you, Mary. And just want to remind everyone to go to her website, MBT More Business Today LLC. Again, so it's MBT More Business Today
Right.
LLC.com. Let's get started and talk now here about, some of the services you provide. Again, the business leadership coaching, group coaching, workshops, mindset, business leadership, conventional intelligence, and also, you say all obstacles lead to mindset. Could you share a little bit about that today?
Yeah, absolutely. I received my first certification in coaching. It was called talent and leadership and talent management. That was my
Okay.
sort of first certification. And then several years later, first I had realized leadership is so bound with business of any kind. You need to know how to lead your team after you bring in a piece of work. All of those things are bound together. But then I realized the questions I was getting, a lot of them had to do with, how do I say this to such and such a person? How do I reach out to someone I haven't seen for 3 years because I want to do business with them? There was so much along that line. And so I, at the same time, heard about conversational intelligence. And there's a book, and the woman who wrote the book is Judith Laser. And I was able to learn from her in the beginning. But that was transformational for me, because that is where this whole idea of, we're not going to jump straight into how you have conversations with other people. First, we're going to jump into, what are you saying to yourself? And so that just like blew me away. And then the one of the first exercises we had was, spend 1 week in all of your meetings listening and not judging. So see if you can listen and
Ooh,
not speak.
yeah.
That was just also revolutionary. And part of the point of it was just this understanding that every single second, all of us are putting all of our own stuff onto what other people are saying and onto the conversations. And sometimes words can just be loaded for reasons that you are not aware. It can be cultural, it can be within the culture of a business where you're saying a certain word, and it's upsetting people and you don't know why, or maybe you don't even notice. So that's why mindset is so important, because first we need to understand ourselves and be more self-aware. And then we can look to what kind of impact are we having on other people, because we become more secure in
Yeah.
ourselves. And then you open up to the differences among other people. And that helps you so much with conversation, which leads to relationships, which leads to better leadership and more business.
Wow. Beautifully said. All right, my goodness. And I know you also want to share a little bit about relationships that, well, a little more about critical little business and leadership. Could you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And, as I was talking about, sometimes when you're communicating with someone, you may not be aware of, whether it's cultural differences or something that you're saying might be stirring something else in them. That's
Yep.
a big part of conversational intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that I really help people do is, once you understand your own traits, right? So if you were going to go into assessments in Myers-Briggs, I'm an ENFJ. So I'm an extroverted person, more interested in ideas. That's the intuitive. The F is feeler, make decisions with
Mm-hmm.
feelings how things impact people as opposed to
Yep.
thinking. And then the J is, I like to have some structure, right? So understanding what kind of person I am also helps you understand how to communicate with me. And that is a big part of building relationships. If you're going in, let's say, to make a pitch for business, and you've noticed that the person you're pitching to is a big idea person, don't go in there with a bunch of details,
Yeah.
because they're going to turn completely off. Go in there with questions so that they can talk about big ideas. And in leadership, it's the same sort of thing. Whether, let's say you're dealing with your team, it's really important to sense when somebody is more introverted or more of a thinker, where they don't speak off the cuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I hear from lots of people like that is, when they're in meetings, they feel completely unheard, because all of the people who are more extroverted
Or,
will jump in immediately and say, I think we should do this, this, and this. And there'll be a big conversation, but those other people are left on the side. So that's really important to leadership, and then also to building business, is to have that understanding and reach out to those people.
yeah.
Either give them the question that you're going to ask ahead of time so they can think about it before the meeting, or make sure to not make the decision in the meeting. Ask that person afterwards as their leader. So it's simple things like that that really help build relationships. And then the other conversational intelligence and belonging part of it is, take a look around the room. Are the voices that need to be there in the room? And if not, how are you including or excluding people?
Interesting. Wow. And you also say whether you're working with a person, group, or organization, you got to measure goals or create to direct the path of coaching engagement and to recognize success, which is something else we're going to touch upon. But that's beautiful what you say. You have to, yeah, you got to really think about others around you. It's not just about you, and you got to be open to other people's ideas. And
Right.
yeah, I'm going on a tangent, but okay, I get this. I get this. This
No,
is
I love it.
wow, wow, wow. Go ahead. So, what else do you want to make sure we cover for today? Being
Oh,
it's our first show, and I just want to remind everyone MBT More Business Today LLC.com. Mary is here with us talking about all the work she's doing here as a business coach, and there's so much that you can benefit from. So, I'll let you continue.
yeah, absolutely. Just the idea behind goals, just quickly, is, you got to know where you're going.
Okay.
And then you have to know how you're going to know that you did it, right? Especially when I'm working with people on leadership, sometimes it'll be like, well, this is just a fluffy goal. It's not fluffy, it's really important. But so I help them develop, what are the metrics to know that you achieved something. And then at the end, if you achieved it, let's celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people go right past that step,
Okay.
and they don't reward themselves in any way. They're just like, okay, what's the next thing I need to do?
Yeah.
But spending time for acknowledgement is really important. Um, and the other thing that I really wanted to say is to spend time envisioning your success. So that's even beyond the basic mindset of, negative, positive thoughts, envision what does it look like?
Yeah.
Spend a little time every day doing that because the things, when you focus on something, the opportunities that are going to lead you to achieve that become more apparent because you see what you focus on.
Yeah. Beautiful. All right. Well, let's get started now. I want to dive a little deeper into the work that the Mindful Business Coach is doing because I hear some great stuff. Let me just say, Mary really was the key that helped me unlock my potential for growth. This is from Maria
Mm.
Kalmeyer. I'm
Yeah,
sure you know who she is. Next
yeah.
thing, Susan says, working with you is truly phenomenal. Your knowledge, experience in the business world makes you feel like you have a safe space to practice skills, build confidences, and ultimately achieve your goals. Was not sure what to expect from this coaching experience, but from the first meeting when we started to dive into my goals to the last, when we saw all that we accomplished together, I felt like I really improved my ability to communicate and be more effective and happy in my workplace and life. So this Susan, thanks you so much. And there's so many more leadership, the business development coaching, all these great testimonials. And I urge everyone to go to the website. But let's talk about, some of the impacts and some of the work that you're doing with people.
Sure. Thank you so much. I think that well, impact is one of the first words you'll see on my website.
Yes.
Impact is so important to me. I hear often from people in the corporate world that they'll go to trainings, they'll go to workshops, and it's always a one and done sort of situation, right? Where it's everybody's all excited, you've
Yeah.
got learning new skills, you're learning new ideas, but at the end of the day, then everybody goes home and you never hear about it again.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is one of the beauties, one of the biggest beauties of coaching is the idea that it's goal specific.
Okay.
And then you know what impact you're going to make because we talk about what is the measurable, the SMART goals, right? The specific, measurable, attainable, relative, and time focused
Mm-hmm.
goal that you're going to have. And within that time period, you will have achieved something. So that is really important. That's the impact. But what I find as I work with people is because of the mindset focus, the work becomes transformational.
Okay.
So people will start out saying, oh, coming in with a problem. What's your problem? Someone I worked with very recently, she needed a raise of a certain amount. And if she didn't get that amount, she knew she was going to have to look for a different job.
Okay.
And so as we start to ask the questions and learn a little bit more about what's going on in her situation, one of the things I found out is that her boss is a completely different type of person
Mm-hmm.
from her and an idea person, whereas this person is much more in the weeds on the details.
Yeah.
And part of what was happening is that they weren't able to connect. So as they were talking past each other. I'm gonna do that.
Yep.
So the roads aren't meeting in any way. So part of our plan and part of what we did during our discussions was really dive a little deeper into what was going on in her mindset. And then also while we were doing that, open her eyes, just as I've told you, to what kind of person her boss is and what might be going on with her boss. We worked on her confidence as
Okay.
well, because that was part of the whole thing. Her boss was seeing her as somebody who she didn't even, didn't think that she was maybe even in the right role because she didn't present herself as somebody with a
Mm-hmm.
lot of confidence. And a lot of it was because the boss didn't understand this being in the weeds and the details on every little thing.
Yep.
So we worked together. It came up with what her approach would be, spent a lot of time working on her confidence and her own mindset so that she could move forward. And this was I think it was only a 4-month engagement.
Okay.
So at the end of the 4 months, she had asked for the raise, and
Wow.
her boss had said, well, they're working on it kind of thing. And one of
Yeah.
the things I love to do is to meet up with my clients a year, just to have a discussion and see how they're doing a year after our engagement ended. So when we met, and it actually was a month ago, I, said how it's going. She got every single thing she had asked for.
Oh my
And it
goodness.
It did take a couple of months, and she had to trust in that her boss was being honest with her
Yeah.
about, we have to do a number of things to make this happen. So that's the kind of impact, in her situation, increasing her confidence and helping her understand different ways to communicate
Mm-hmm.
were the things that led to the success. And she got exactly what she wanted. So that's one of the stories.
We
Um,
love hearing this. Go ahead, go ahead. We only have oh gosh, 2 minutes
two
left of the
minutes.
show. I'm so sorry. Yes, go
That's
ahead.
okay. What would you like me to say in the last 2 minutes?
Whatever it's important to you. This is about you and your work and all those that you're
Okay.
helping. So it's really, yeah, you tell me.
So I just want to say, if you're out there and you're thinking about coaching, the number one question to ask yourself is, how will things be different if I make this commitment to myself? Because coaching is all about you. And you really do need to make that commitment, do the action
Mm-hmm.
items, be open to
Yeah.
improving your life, and you can have an immense impact on yourself. I also do free half-hour consultations for
I
people
saw
who
that.
are,
That's awesome to contact you to start. Yep.
yeah, where you can just make an appointment and we can discuss what it is you're thinking of doing. And it's fit is really important. Sometimes I might not be the right coach for somebody, and I know a lot of people. Actually, someone reached out recently who was looking for a business coach who was also a therapist. And I was able to find someone like that in
Yeah.
my network. So I'm not at all insulted if somebody decides not to work with me, but I really encourage everyone, get out there, get yourself a coach, and start on your journey to having a better life.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. That summarizes it beautifully for me. Reach out for that free half-hour consultation. And Mary, do we have any more shows coming up?
We do. We are going to be having another show next week,
Oh,
next
great.
Thursday.
Looking forward to it. Great, Mary. So
Yes.
pleasure getting to know you. And again, if someone wants to reach out, tell us one more time how we do so.
You just go ahead to the website, MBT More Business Today, LLC.com, or you can email me, Mary at MBT More Business Today, LLC.com,
Beautiful.
and I will reply. And there's a link on the website if you want to make an appointment for a consultation.
Great. Thank you so much, Mary. Pleasure having you here and looking
Thank
forward to
you.
more of the conversation. Thanks again. Have a
Yep, I'll
great
see you
week,
next
sweetheart.
week.
You got it. Bye bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.